Hello students. So in the previous class we were talking about that of the force and its laws of motion. We study about force, what is force, and the three different laws of motion including the Newton's first law of motion, second law of motion and third law of motion. Okay. We also study some of the numericals which is related to that of the Newton's second law of motion and law of conservation of momentum which defines that momentum can neither be created nor destroyed. It means initial momentum is equals to final momentum. We study some of the numericals. We go through some numericals of the law of conservation of momentum, which is on the basis of the m1 u1 plus m2 u2 is equals to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. Now today we will start with the new chapter of chemistry, and that is atoms and molecules. So before we go further, let me ask a question from you all. What was the first and the second chapter of the chemistry till we have studied in class 9th? The first chapter is about the matter in our surrounding. Second chapter, that is matter around us pure? So in the previous chapters we have studied about matter, whether it is present around us or it is pure or impure. Okay. Now, if suppose you break that matter, when we talk about the matter is basically classified into physical and chemical, like solid, liquid, gas, or that of the element, compound and mixture. Okay, so is it possible to break the matter into the small particles? Yes. Or what will happen when we break this matter into the small particle? So when you break the matter into the small particle, the smallest particle, we use the term for it, and that is known as atom. So atom, we can say it is the smallest particle of a matter. Now what about the molecule, student? Molecule, when two or more atoms they combine together, they forms the molecule. So atom is the smallest unit. When we keep dividing the matter into the smaller particle, the smallest particle that we get, we call it as a atom. Now you know that the different elements they combine together to give the reaction. Different chemical reaction occurs as the two compound they react together, or two elements they react together to form the products, and that is a chemical reaction. So all the chemical reaction which occur or they follow certain laws, and that laws we call it is a law of chemical combination. What does that mean, student? The elements they chemically combine together follow certain laws, and we study that laws in a law of chemical combination. Now this law of chemical combination is also divided into two, and that is, first one is law of conservation of mass, law of conservation of mass, and second one is law of constant proportion. Okay, so law of chemical combination includes two laws, that is law of conservation of mass and the law of constant proportion. So we start with that of the law of conservation of mass. Student, we have studied about the law of conservation of momentum also. Right now I discussed also with you the law of conservation of momentum. In the law of conservation of momentum, we study that the initial momentum is equals to final momentum. The same thing here with that of the law of conservation of mass. So here the mass get conserved. Where? When the reaction take place, the total mass of the reactant is equals to the total mass of the product. It means there is no loss of the mass as well as no mass is formed. or no new mass is produced in any of the product. So by this we can say that law of conservation of momentum defines that mass can neither be created nor destroyed, but it remains the same. It means the total mass of the reactant is equals to the total mass of the product. For example, if a reaction is there, X plus Y, both of them they react together and they form W plus Z. You can take anything. So whatever the mass of these two reactant, the total mass of these two reactant, if suppose it is W, then when you add the mass of both of these components, the result will come a W only. So here you can say that the total mass of this reactant, when you add the mass of this reactant, that is equals to W, and when you add the mass of these two products, that is also equals to W. So what happened? There is no loss of the mass. It means mass remain conserved, and that is what law of conservation of mass explain. So we can write the definition of law of conservation of mass. So law of conservation of mass says that mass can neither be produced or mass can neither be created, sorry student, neither be created, it will be created only, created nor destroyed. Okay, so mass can neither be created nor destroyed is the law of conservation of mass. We can also define the this law of conservation of mass is the total mass of the reactant is equals to total mass of the products. Okay, so mass can neither be created nor destroyed, or total mass of the reactant will be equal to total mass of the product. We can understand it with the help of an example. Total mass of the reactant is equal to total mass of the product, or mass can neither be created nor destroyed. If suppose a reaction is there in which mercuric oxide it get decomposed into mercury and oxygen. So you see here mercuric oxide, student, mercuric oxide. This will give mercury plus oxygen, right? Or mercuric oxide HgO. Okay, it gives Hg plus O2. Okay, say suppose we have taken 100 gram of mercuric oxide, and by this we get 92.6 gram of mercury and 7.4 gram of oxygen. So 100 gram of a mercuric oxide we had taken, by which we get two products, and that is 92.6 gram of a mercury and 7.4 gram of oxygen. So what will get, student? If you see the total mass of the reactant here, so the total mass of the reactant is 100 gram, and what is the total mass of the product? When you add both of them, what you will get? You will get that is also equals to 100 gram. Okay, so the mass of the reactant is equals to the mass of the product. This proves the law of conservation of the mass. It means the mass remain conserved, there is no change in the mass, there is no new creation of the mass, or the mass doesn't destroy, or it does not get lost when the product is formed. Okay, So this is the law of conservation of mass. In your book, there is an experiment is also given which is related to that of a barium chloride and a sodium sulfate, students. So here, if suppose we had taken a beaker, in a conical flask is there, and in a conical flask, barium chloride, BaCl2 plus sodium sulfate, Na2SO4. So in the experiment, when you see in the book, it is given that we have to prove that the barium chloride and the sodium sulfate, both of them. So the experiment that is given in your book is of barium chloride and the sodium sulfate, student. So there you have seen, if you see there, when we take a conical flask and we keep the barium chloride in the conical flask, and in the test tube we tie it with the thread and keep that test tube to the neck portion, and in the test tube we will pour the Na2SO4. Okay, so it means before reaction in the conical flask barium chloride was there, and in the test tube sodium sulfate was there. Okay, then we will take the weight of both of the reactant. Remember that still both of them do not mix with each other. Okay, so the test tube was at the neck portion, still hanging in the neck of the conical flask, and in the conical flask barium chloride is there. If suppose the mass of both of the reactant, when we weight it comes W. After that, what we will do? The sodium sulfate which is in the test tube, we will leave it in the barium chloride. We will loose the thread so that it will go to the bottom of the conical flask, and then the sodium sulfate will react with that of the barium chloride. Then what will happen? Then there is a formation of a white precipitate, and that is of a barium sulfate and formation of sodium chloride up. Okay, so it was before reaction when the weight was W. After reaction, what happened? When you drop that of the sodium sulfate into the barium chloride, both of them react with each other, and due to which there is a formation of a white precipitate, and that is of a barium sulfate and the formation of a sodium chloride. When you weight these two solution or these product together, then you will find that the weight of or the mass of these two comes W again. It means before reaction, it means when both the reactant we had taken, and after reaction when there is a formation of the product occur, the mass of these two is equals to the total mass of sum of these two products. Okay, so this proves the law of conservation of momentum. Okay, where the total mass of the reactant is equals to the total mass of the product. Now we can understand most of the time the question which is asked about the law of conservation of mass. Numerical is given there, and you have to apply the law of conservation of mass, and by this you can prove that whether that reaction is following the law of conservation of mass or not. Let me show you by a numerical. Now you can see here there is a question which is related to the law of conservation of mass, student. So in this one, the question is that 10 gram of a calcium carbonate is there, and when we heat the 10 gram of a calcium carbonate, on heating it will gives 4.4 gram of carbon dioxide and 5.6 gram of a calcium oxide. Okay, what we have to show here that whether this statement, this reaction is following the law of conservation of mass or not. So first of all we will write the reaction, and then we will write the mass, and then we prove that whether it follows the law of conservation of mass or not. So calcium chloride on heating, it means it get decomposed, it get break down into the calcium oxide and that of the carbon dioxide. Okay, so see here, calcium carbonate, when it get heated, for heating we represent it by triangle. It means it is we are providing heat to this component or this compound. then it will give calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Okay, calcium carbonate breaks down into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Now see here, what is the mass of the calcium carbonate? That is 10 gram. What about the calcium oxide? 5.6 gram of a calcium oxide is formed and 4.4 gram of carbon dioxide is formed. So we'll write here 4.4 gram of carbon dioxide is formed. Now see here, what we have to do, we have to prove whether this reaction is following the law of conservation of mass or not. So what we will see the total mass of the reactant and the total mass of the product. If the total mass of the reactant becomes equals to that of the total mass of the product, then it follows the law of conservation of mass. Now see here, the total mass of the reactant is 10 only. So we'll say here 10 gram. That will be equals to, now we will add both of them. When you add it, then you will find it will be equals to 10 gram only. So you will write that according to law of conservation of mass, total mass of the reactant is equals to total mass of the product, and since here total mass of the reactant is 10 as well as the total mass of the product is 10 gram, thus it follows the law of conservation of mass. Okay, so like that, if any of the question asks, you will write it that the total mass of the reactant is equals to total mass of the product. Okay, we'll see one more numerical that is related to law of conservation of mass, then we will understand the concept very clearly. Now see, here's another question of the law of conservation of mass, student. So if a 17 gram of a AgNO3, it reacts with that of the NaCl and result forming the 14.35 gram of a AgCl and 8.5 gram of NaNO3, find mass of NaCl. Now first of all, we will write the reaction here. So the reaction is AgNO3 react with the NaCl. It means silver nitrate react with that of the sodium chloride. So we will write here silver nitrate, NaCl, it react with the AgNO3 and thus it forms the product, and that is AgCl plus NaNO3. Right? So sodium chloride react with that of the silver nitrate to give silver chloride and sodium nitrate. Now we will see that what is the mass of all these reactants. So NaCl mass we have to find it. So we will write here X gram. Mass of the silver nitrate is 17. So we will write here 17 gram. It reacts with the NaCl and result in forming the 14.35 gram of a sodium chloride. So here it will be 14.35 gram of a sodium chloride is there, and thus 8.5 gram of NaNO3, it means the sodium nitrate is formed. So here it will be 8.5 gram. So these are the masses of all the reactant and the product. So we have to find the mass of the NaCl, that is of the sodium chloride, as well as we have to prove that whether it is following the law of conservation of mass or not. So what we will do here, we know that the law of conservation of mass states that total mass of reactant will be equals to total mass of product, right? So what is the total mass of the reactant here? It is 70 plus X gram. And what is the total mass of the product? It is 14.35 plus 8.5 gram. You see here, we will write so it will be X plus 70, that is equals to 14.35 plus 8.5. So it will remain x plus 17 is equals to 22.85 gram. Now by this we can find the value of x, that is of a sodium chloride. So it will be equals to x will be equals to 22.85 minus 17 gram. That will be equals to 5.85 gram. So 5.85 gram of a sodium chloride mass will be there in reactant. So mass of the sodium chloride is 5.85. Now whether it is following the law of conservation, yes, it is following. That's why we had used this concept. So it is this one is the example of the law of conservation of mass, in which the reactant is equal to the product, and if one of the reactant is not given, then we can find it by applying the same formula. Okay, so this is the law of conservation of mass. Now we will see the another law, and that is law of constant proportion. Now see the law of constant proportion. What is law of constant proportion, student? Now see, a pure compound, it always consisting of the same element, and these elements which combine together to form compound, they always combine together in a fixed proportion by mass. That is the law of a constant proportion. It means when two elements they combine together to form a pure compound, they always combine together by a fixed proportion by mass. How? Let me explain to you. For example, water. Now student, water you can take from anywhere. You are taking a dirty water, or your water which you drink at your home, or a distilled water, or a pond water, anywhere. As a marine water, or it's a fresh water, doesn't matter. What is the formula of the water? That is H2O. So it doesn't matter what is the source from where we get the water. The formula of the water will remain the same, and that is the H2O. Okay. So here in water, one hydrogen, two hydrogen, it combined with that of the oxygen. Now see here, we are saying that two elements, when they combine together, they combine by a fixed proportion by mass. It means the ratio between their mass will remain fixed. Doesn't matter from where you are taking this compound, or from where you are extracting this compound. Like in case of a water, what is the atomic mass of the hydrogen? That is 1. Okay. So how many atoms are there of hydrogen? That is 2. So 1 into 2, which will be equal to 2. Ratio, because we are seeing the ratio of the masses of the two elements. So oxygen, the atomic mass of the oxygen is 16. So the ratio between these two, hydrogen and oxygen, in case of the water is 2:16. And that will be also equal to 1:8. Okay, 2 will be common here. So water, from wherever you are taking this water, the hydrogen and oxygen, when it combines together to form water, it always combine in a ratio of 1:8. So the ratio, the fixed mass by proportion ratio will always be remains the same. We can say the masses between the two elements which forms the compound, it remains the fixed. This law explains the law of constant proportion. You can take another example of that of the carbon dioxide. In case of a carbon dioxide, student, you see, we get carbon dioxide from any of the reaction, like by heating the limestone, or by heating the sodium carbonate or by burning the charcoal. In all these reactions, the product you will get is the carbon dioxide. Okay. So, the carbon dioxide, it really doesn't matter from where we are extracting the carbon dioxide, but in carbon dioxide, the carbon and the two oxygen, it combines together by a fixed proportion by mass. So, what is the atomic mass of the carbon? That is 12. What is the atomic mass of the oxygen? That is 16. How many oxygens are there? How many oxygen atom is present here? That is 2. So 16 into 2, which will be equal to 32. So 12 ratio 32 will be the ratio of the carbon dioxide. We can simplify it, and that will be equals to 3 ratio 8. So it doesn't matter that from where you are taking the carbon dioxide, it is a pure compound, and when both of the element, whenever the carbon dioxide is formed, it always consisting of a carbon, and that of the two molecules of oxygen will also there. Okay, so when both of them they combine together, they always combine in a fixed ratio by mass, that is 3 ratio 8. This is the law of constant proportion, in which in a pure compound, if two elements they combine together, they always combine by a fixed mass by proportion. Okay, or fixed proportion by mass. Doesn't matter. Okay, and this is the law of constant proportion. We will see a numerical which is related to the law of constant proportion. So in this question you see copper oxide is prepared, and the copper oxide is prepared by two methods. In the first method you see here 1.75 gram of a copper, it gives 2.19 gram of a copper oxide. So first case 1.75 gram of a copper, it gives the 2.19 gram of a copper oxide. While in the second case you see 1.14 gram of a copper, it produces 1.14 gram of the copper oxide. Now what we have to do, we have to show that it is following the law, that is law of constant proportion. Okay, so we will try to find that what is the percentage of the copper in the copper oxide. Okay, so we will write here mass of the copper is, mass of copper in the first case, we are seeing in the first case, so that is equals to 1.75 gram. Mass of the copper oxide, that is CuO, is equals to 2.19 gram. Okay, now we have to find the percentage of the copper in copper oxide. Percentage of the mass of the copper in copper oxide. So we have studied, student, that how we find the percentage. So percentage is equals to mass of the solute upon mass of the solution. Okay, so here you can see that mass of the copper upon mass of the copper oxide into 100 will gives the percentage of the copper in the copper oxide in first case. So we write here the percentage of copper. That will be equals to mass of copper upon mass of copper oxide into 100. Okay, so see. So what is the mass of the copper here? Mass of the copper is 1.75 upon 2.19 into 100, right? So by this we are able to find the mass of the copper. That will be percentage of copper is equals to 79.9%. Now by this we are able to find the percentage of oxygen also by subtracting the percentage of a copper to that of 100 gram. Okay, so percentage of oxygen will be equals to 100 minus 79.9, which will be equals to 20.1%. percentage of oxygen is present. So in the first case, percentage of the copper is 79.9 and that of the oxygen is 20.1. Now the same thing we will do in the second case also. So in the second case, you see here students, the mass of that of the copper, percentage of a copper in case of a second case, that will be equals to the, what is the mass of the copper here? 1.14 gram upon produces a copper oxide, that is 1.14, right? 1.43 into 100. So by this we are able to find the percentage of a copper again in the second case. So this will be equals to 79.7, and by this we are able to find the percentage of oxygen also. So percentage of oxygen will be equals to 100 minus 79.7, which will be equals to 20.3 percentage. So see here, in the first case, the mass, it comes, the ratio between them, in the first case it will come as a 79.1 and 79.9 and 20.1. In second case it will be equals to 79.7 and 20.3. So you can see here the ratio between these two are almost similar, although 0.2 difference is there. It will be an experimental error, there is no issues, but till that you will say it is approximately or precisely both of the ratios are equal. So by this you can see whether we take the mass, whether we take the copper from 2.19 gram of a copper oxide, or whether we obtain the copper from that of a 1.14 gram of a copper oxide, the ratio of combining of that of the copper and oxygen will remains the same. So this proves the law of constant proportion, where a formation of a compound, the element, if the same element, they combine together with a fixed proportion by mass. Okay, so this is the example of the law of constant proportion. Okay.